quite an interesting curveball, Dave Richard, with Christian McCaffrey being inactive. I know, I mean, it got me. I screwed a lot of people over. What are your thoughts?
Helped a lot of people too.
It did.
It really did. It's unbelievable. Listen, these things happen, and it feels like once a year we get a surprise inactive at some point during the season. Not a week one thing, just overall in the year. And now it's already happened in week one, and I'm certain it's going to happen again. It's a nightmare. I get where the 49ers are coming from. I seemingly hurt himself in practice this week, and they wanted to hold him out of the game, and they knew they had Jordan Mason, and Mason was pretty good. This would be the counter argument to not getting your own guy's handcuffs, or maybe I should say, this is the argument to getting your handcuffs, is so that you're protected. And when McCaffrey went down with the injury, I said there were two things I was going to do if I drafted McCaffrey at 101. I would either draft an extra running back, which wouldn't have helped me unless that extra running back was on the Jets. But despite that, I would have added another running back, so I'd be deeper at that position, or I would have prioritized Jordan Mason. And if you had done that, you would have been very happy. But hopefully this is a rare case. I know that there's a report that McCaffrey might not play in week 2. Jordan Mason's going to be super popular off waivers. And if McCaffrey is not himself this year, you got a good look at what I saw from Jordan Mason in the preseason. Awesome agility, really good vision. He can see second level before a lot of running backs that I've watched can see the second level. He was really, really good.
28 carries, 147 yards and a touchdown, only one catch, but he played just about every snap. I think something like 88% of the snap, maybe 81. He played a lot of snaps, Jordan Mason. He was the guy. And the report from Adam Schefter said there's a real chance that McCaffrey does not play this weekend at Minnesota. So Mason should be a priority, obviously. But Jamey, if you were asked on CBS Sports HQ, and I'll ask it again, if you had known that McCaffrey were going to be out, what would you have done? Where do you think you would have ranked Mason?
He definitely would have been a top 20 guy, potentially top 10. You know, you're just looking at, this is why we talked about Elijah Mitchell. This is why we talked about Jordan Mason after Mitchell's injury. The 49ers running back is fantastic. McCaffrey does that on steroids. You know, so McCaffrey gets this rushing total. Maybe it's a few yards less because he's doing more in the passing game. He's most likely north of 150 total yards. And let's face it, that was still a very good defense. I know the Jets didn't look that great last night, but that's still a really good defense. So you want this player. And, you know, you mentioned 66% rostered. He would have been added across the board. He would have been 100% rostered if we knew on Friday, as Jordan Mason alluded to in the postgame interview, that he was told, or I don't want to speak for him, but as he alluded to, that he could be starting in this game. Now, I think one thing about that, because you got a lot of, you know, comments on what he said, they could have said, Jordan, you're starting, but Christian still could have been playing. So that's probably their loophole away around this of, you know, maybe getting fined, because they could say,
nope, they're getting fined. They're getting fined.
Well,
yeah, let's so basically McCaffrey apparently left practice Friday with calf tightness, and then Jordan Mason was asked post game, when did you find out you were starting? And he said probably Friday. And if we had known that, you know, that obviously would have helped fantasy managers. So
you would have sat McCaffrey on Sunday. You know, or you would have put him maybe in a flex spot. You know, I think that's another thing about these Monday night games. Like, if you have the ability to put somebody in a flex spot, like you could have picked up Juwan Jennings, for example, or you could have picked up Alan Lazard. How fun would that have been if you made that call, you know, and put in somebody who scored 2 touchdowns. So you give yourself a little bit more flexibility. But yes, it was very frustrating. I think just from the standpoint of moving forward, Mason, if he's available, is the number one ad. You know, we're not going to say that based on how we operate. You know, I don't know what other waiver wire columns do, what other sites have, and watch that. He's just above the threshold for us, but clearly he's the number one priority if he's out there.
He's already rostered in 58% of Yahoo leagues, but if you play on ESPN, good news. He's only rostered in 38% of ESPN leagues.
Yeah, but is he really the number one priority, or is that Isaiah Likely?
I don't think there is a number one priority this week.
Jordan Mason is the number one priority because
no spoilers.
This is week 2. You're looking at a guy, if he starts week 2, will be in your starting lineup. And what if McCaffrey gets hurt again?
Right. Calf injuries.
There is no question Jordan Mason's number one priority by a billion.
Okay, but you need a tight end. All right.
Right. If you're good at running back
That
and you're bad at tight end or wide receiver, I don't know if you're spilling out all your fab to get Jordan Mason.
Yes, you are.
I don't think you are.
Oh, okay. That's another discussion. Spilling out all your fab to get a guy who could have 0, maybe one more game where he's worth starting. Definitely.
That's the point.
What would you pay? What would you pay in fab for a win next week?
At this point in the season, not as much as I would later in the season. But I to be fair, a quarter of my fab for sure.
Yeah, Christian McCaffrey is not definitely out in week 2.
No, but even if he plays in week 2, I would bet that he won't see every snap.
Oh, listen, you're not spending all your fab on Jordan Mason.
Yeah, no way.
Nobody should be doing that.
Okay, right, but let's just say that I had a heartbreaking loss. My team's healthy. I don't have to replace Nakua. I don't have McCaffrey. I'm going to use my top waiver claim on a running back that could be a handcuff by week 3.
Or it could be the starter for 3 more weeks. Like, we don't know.
All right. Well, it depends maybe how much you buy into Likely, because if he's a starting tight end all year, then that definitely changes things. But we don't know. But we'll get to that in a moment. Here's some of the big news that we're tracking other than Christian McCaffrey. Puka Nacua is on IR. He's going to miss at least 4 games after re-aggravating his preseason knee injury. We'll talk about Demarcus Robinson and Tyler Johnson and Colby Parkinson and my 3 sons. There you go. Right. A lot of when I started to realize how many people's last name ends in SON. With the whole, anyway, it's a lot of people and all those Rams options.
A lot of sons out there.
Yeah, but the Rams, horrible week for them. Joe Noteboom, who is a starting tackle for now, only was going to be a starting tackle for 1 more week. Alaric Jackson is out for 2 games. He'll be back in week 3. He's going to miss several weeks with a high ankle sprain. And Steve Avila, starting left guard, he's going to miss time. He may have a sprained MCL. Cornerback Colby Durant day-to-day for the Rams. Raheem Mostert and Devon Achane both missed practice. They play on Thursday against Buffalo, so we certainly have our eye on that. This could just be, it wasn't even a real practice, but listed as missing practice on Monday.
But Achane limped off the field at the end of the game, and Mostert missed a lot of time during the game.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, man.
Jalen Wright, here we go.
Or Jeff Wilson. Lamar Jackson missed practice. We don't know what that's all about. Jordan Love, they haven't put him on IR, so that's good news. It is going to be Malik Willis this week, but I actually don't think he's officially been ruled out for this week, Jordan Love, but it's good that so far they haven't put him on IR. David Njoku looks like he's going to miss some time with the ankle injury. They're at Jacksonville this week. We'll talk about Jordan Akins later, who had 3 targets after Njoku left. Jake Ferguson, he has not been ruled out for this week. That was really caught a break there, hopefully, with Ferguson. He might miss a game. Hopefully none, but maybe not any more than 1 for Ferguson. Josh Allen's good to go. He's going to play. Ken Walker, all I saw anyway from their new coach, Mike McDonald, is day-to-day for Ken Walker. Roma Dunze, knee injury. Are we expecting him to miss time?
Yes.
Yes.
Week to week.
And Marquise Brown could be back this week. All right. That's the key news and notes. We'll have more for you later. So let's get into the waiver wire, Jamey, and give me your top 3 priorities.
Jordan Mason, Isaiah Likely, and let's go for right now, Zach Charbonnet. If we find out tonight that both Achane and Mostert missed practice, then put the combination of Jalen Wright, Jeff Wilson at 3 spot.
Okay, Jordan Mason, Isaiah Likely, Zach Charbonnet, or Dolphins running back. Dave, how about you? Who are your top 3 priorities?
It depends on what you need, and it depends on what you could negotiate in a trade. We can talk about that when it comes to Jordan Mason and Isaiah Likely. I've got Likely at the top of the list, but I get the argument for Jordan Mason. I just think that Likely can have a better rest of season effect on fantasy managers' teams. After Likely and Mason, though, I don't have a good third answer, because Charbonnet would be a really good one if we knew that Ken Walker was a serious candidate to miss time. I don't know if that's really going to happen. Dolphins running backs make a lot of sense. We'll see what we find out about those guys. And then you've got other guys that just aren't as exciting, like Rashid Shaheed. I thought he looked great for the Saints. You've got a Rams wide receiver. Someone's got to replace Puka. Alexander Madison. Are we really going to pick him up and expect things from Alexander Madison? What if you need a quarterback? Baker would be at the top of the list for me there. I named like 7 names for my top 3. I don't have a consensus top 3.
All right, so Jordan Mason and Isaiah Likely are the consensus top 2 in some order. We pretty much know that if Christian McCaffrey's out, Jordan Mason is going to be worth starting, based on one game, but based on track record, right? Like we can say that. So, and then just keep in mind calf injury, and it's also an Achilles injury for McCaffrey. So this is a calf injuries suck.
Every win buys them a week.
Burrow obviously had the calf injury and struggled with it. Russell Wilson came back from the calf injury in the preseason, re-aggravated it. Once upon a time, Jimmy Rollins of the Philadelphia Phillies said, calves are tricky cats.
I mean,
Scott White say that all the time.
If you live in the Bay Area, you certainly know about it with Kevin Durant.
Yes. So just keep that in mind. Now, my question is, what do you guys expect from Isaiah Likely going forward?
Certainly market correction. He's not going to do that again.
Right. And there's going to be games where the Ravens are going to be able to run the ball a ton, and Likely will be a minimal.
And Mark Andrews is going to be better.
Yeah.
So,
but he's one of the rare tight ends that works like a wide receiver. And there will be also games where the Ravens are going to throw the ball, and he will clearly be a focal point.
You definitely want to add him. There's no doubt about it. 100%.
Right.
And it goes for even if you don't need a tight end. So like we're talking about Jordan Mason, 66% rostered. That's a pretty hefty amount of leagues. Right. There's going to be plenty of fantasy managers. Look, they just lost Jake Ferguson and David Njoku, who are 2 starting tight ends. So there's going to be a want to add Isaiah Likely in a lot of leagues. There's also people that are concerned, understandably so. I don't think they should panic, but understandably so, about Laporta and McBride and Kittle and Kincaid. And they're going to say, okay, do I need to go add an Ingram? Do I need to go pick up somebody as a potential starter? Again, you don't want to go crazy with your fab from that standpoint, but it's not a bad idea to pick up these caliber players. You may not need Jordan Mason, but what if he becomes the guy for the 49ers for a month? Like, I want that on my team. What if Likely becomes the best tight end for the Ravens and one of these difference makers at a thin position? You want that on your team. So you're going to probably have to spend a little bit more than you hope to.
What a time to have the number 1 waiver claim, by the way, because if you've got that spot and you don't need either of these guys, you can walk right over to the team that's got Christian McCaffrey or the team that's struggling at tight end and say, hey, I'll go pick up this player for you. What are you going to give me for him? And try and work out a deal in advance if you don't want to carry Mason or Likely. And then obviously, if you've got the number 1 waiver claim and you've got McCaffrey or you've got running back problems, of course you're going to pick up Jordan Mason first. But I think the only ways that you pick up Likely ahead of Mason, and this is just being fair to Jamey, is if you really need a tight end, if you can trade Likely for something really good, or maybe if you really have nothing going on in your team and you don't want to bet against Christian McCaffrey, that would be the reason to take Isaiah Likely. Otherwise, I think Jamie's right. You can take Mason, but it's not so cut and dry that it's Mason by a mile.
I'm going to tell you, I mean, like Isaiah Likely and Jordan Mason are going to be rostered in most of my leagues, especially Mason. Maybe not Likely, but Likely is 55% rostered. I'm going to be picking up a lot of DeMarcus Robinson. I can tell you that. I think he's going to be solid.
Is he the right guy to pick up?
I think so. I mean, you look at what Tyler Johnson did. He had a 63-yard catch and run. He spun away from a defender, but he was, look, they both could be worth picking up. But Robinson proved himself a little bit at the end of last year.
Oh man,
I think I think he's the guy to get, and they're both guys to get. And like you could say, all right, maybe I'd rather have Brandon Cooks for 1 week, but if Ferguson's back, actually kind of
Ferguson's not back in 1 week.
Well, he hasn't been ruled out for this week, so. Yeah, I think he's on the return to play list or whatever that was for the Cowboys.
He's going to be part of the return to play practice group.
Yes, whatever that is.
So that means he's going to be working off to the side, not participating in team drills. That's what that means.
All right. Well, those are some of our top priorities.